Zitten jullie er klaar voor? Even though we pronounce this evening with a Dutch title, de Natuur als inspiratiebron voor design, we're going to do it in English. Who of you is so keen on Dutch that he or she says, oh my god, that's not gonna not be a good idea? Who prefers to be it in Dutch? Oh, then you have to be brave. Well, we have some guests on this very cool Dutch Design Week, which it is in this city, that would love to attend this program, and therefore we've chosen to do it in English, and you've seen it in the invitation as well. And this whole evening is gonna go about biomimicry. And trust me, until about 1.5 weeks ago, I never heard of that before. I'm the host of this program, Paradigma, at the library, and there are like the most coolest presentations coming by this evening as well. And I've been reading about it, and I think you guys know so much more about it already because it's packed with so many people. We have a nice program with 3 wonderful people. Before I do so, I'm going to say something about myself. Oh, you're helping me already. Good, sorry. Wow, what a wonderful team. My name is Rudy van Beurden. And actually, to be very brief, 4 years ago I decided the best thing in my life, vanaf nu ga ik alleen maar gave dingen doen. From this moment on, I'm only going to do awesome stuff, because why would you ever do stuff that you don't believe in and that doesn't provide you with energy? I think that's absolute nonsense. So with Gaaf, I'm a speaker, moderator, and I would love to share my energy with all of you. So having that said, one last little message. It's my dream to get the verb positiveren in de Vandalen, Dutch dictionary. And if we all start using it from this evening on, at least 3 times a week, we're getting there by 2017. Positiveren. That would be nice. Can I get the next one, Koert? It has your name on it. We have 3 speakers, and we have a philosopher, a scientist, designer, architect. These people, they cover I don't know how many roles, and they're gonna zoom in on the topic on biomimicry. And I can tell some about it, but I think the best one to give the stage right now is Koert van Mensvoort. As a designer, he has this awesome van traveling the Netherlands, but he didn't bring it with him, but he's gonna frame the whole topic. Can I get a warm hand of applause for Koert van Mensvoort?
Hello. Indeed, I'm Koert van Mensvoort, and tonight is about biomimicry. A good slide to start with is the definition of biomimicry, an approach to innovation that seeks sustainable solutions to human challenges by emulating nature's time-tested patterns and strategies. We all got that? Okay, good. Now, when I was preparing this talk, I thought I could start by giving many examples, but then I thought other speakers will do that. And I'm going to do something else. I want to discuss the relationship, nature and technology, and how that might be shifting. So I will start by showing a lot of, I think, well, they're not really examples of biomimicry. It's more like what it should not be. And then I will move on to my philosophy. And then in the end, I will try to share one example of biomimicry that I haven't solved yet. And there I need your help. So that's the structure of the presentation. Okay. I want to start by this with this image. This is something I saw some years ago when I was walking in the dunes with a friend, and we saw this strange tree sticking out amidst all the other trees. We went closer to take a look, and it turned out that this is not a tree. It's a cell phone antenna mast disguised as a tree. It's an example where we copy things from nature and then, make them, but it's only copying the outer form because it's made of plastic, it's not growing, this is, I think we can all agree that this is not nature. This is an image of nature, just like a painting you would hang above your couch can be an image of nature. And there are many examples where people do this. This is near Germany. a big building, and inside people are also enjoying nature. Well, no, it's not nature. Well, this is the biggest indoor beach in Western Europe. And I always have to laugh about these paths, that they constructed it in a way that you can walk through and then you can have this feeling like, I'm walking in nature. But of course you're not. This is culture. This is an image of nature. It's a fake. Also in Dubai, we copy images of nature to make these palm islands, and the world map has also been made. And actually it's Dutch companies constructing these islands. So yeah, there was this plan to also do something similar in the Netherlands. Whereas I thought, well, it's a bit too late. They've already done that in Dubai. Think of something original. Maybe no, well, this is also not... Actually, this is my favorite. This would be great country marketing. Would look awesome on Google Maps. Again, it's not nature, it's a copy, it's a fake. And in the Netherlands, we actually have something that goes even further, which is the regenerated prehistoric nature. Basically, what we do is we buy land from farmers, or we gain land from the ocean, and then we construct nature according to our idealized notion of what nature should be, and what nature was 10,000 years ago, before people were touching everything. So that's the regenerated prehistoric landscape, and we also have this classical cow in it, which is the Scottish Highlander, because the original cow that used to roam there, it became extinct in the 17th century, but we found a replacement in the Scottish Highlander, which basically, I think it's a bit of an actor trying to replace the extinct animal. These are all examples of nature becoming culture. And much of the things that we call nature in our daily use is, in fact, it's not nature at all. It's a simulation, it's culture. And nature is also a very successful product, perhaps the most successful product of our time. You see it if you Google some words like dandelion, paardenbloem. Well, this is still fine. But so I also Googled some other terms, like lion. It's kind of okay. Here it starts becoming strange. A jaguar, a puma, the beetle, also mixed, the mouse, shell, apple, blackberry, and I also Googled berry, that's something else, but well. You see that images of nature are often used in our society and in our culture to sell stuff, to present stuff. And I have some, well, the apple I already gave as an example. Apple is not a fruit company, you know. Lacoste does not sell crocodiles. Puma shoes, they're not made from the puma animal. They just refer to this sporty image of the animal. And then, yeah, you also have these natural condoms, which is kind of like, what's natural about condom use? But still somehow, if you have to choose between 26 brands, you pick the natural ones. It's very successful. And marketeers, they know this. Some are also quite cynical about it, like painting something green. This Hummer is just a little bit less polluting than the previous model, and then we call it a green car. Many products are presented like this, and then we also have the category of organic products, products that have been made in harmony and according to nature. But what that exactly means, that's hardly ever defined. What we see here is an ecological organic insecticide. So you can kill off nature, but in a nature-friendly way. And I think this is sort of the limit. It's the ultimate the green Coke. If this would ever happen, I thought, then this development of using images of nature to sell products has reached the summit. Well, you can buy it now in the shops. All these products, they are not only trying to sell themselves using images of nature, but there's something else happening underneath, which is, maybe even the smartest marketeers, they don't really realize it, that while we are making all these products that refer to positive images of nature, we also get this notion of nature as the beautiful, harmonic, inherently good force of life, whereas nature is also sometimes horror, infections, death, diseases, viruses, volcanoes, extreme cruelty. That's also part of nature, but we kind of forgot about it. We have this idea like nature, it's beautiful, it's positive. It's not always the case. And while we are in this dreamy image of nature, and we're trying to save nature, at the same time, hardly we ever ask the question, what is nature? What is our image of nature? And who decides that? And I would like to get into that. And then we have to start at the beginning. And this is really the beginning of our planet. It is now 4.5 billion years ago since our planet came into existence. And at first it was just this lonely rock floating in space. It had a geosphere, but it took 3 billion years before the biosphere evolved on planet Earth. And then 1 billion years later, people arrived. So we just arrived, If you look at this time frame, billions of years the Earth existed and now we are here. Yet our presence does not go unnoticed, because with our human activity and technology, we cause the rising of a new sphere on planet Earth, which you could call the technosphere. And just like the biosphere builds upon and interacts with the geosphere, also the technosphere builds upon and interacts with the biosphere. So it's a simple message. Evolution goes on. And we all know this notion of Darwin and evolution, but that's only 150 years old. And when we talk about nature, we still have this notion of as if we are Adam and Eve pushed out of the biblical paradise, and we have to get back to that natural situation. Well, I'm here to tell you that that's not going to happen. Because we are already, all of us, we are born in a world that has been designed already. Everything around us has been designed already. Try for yourself. Look in the room we are in now and search for the most natural thing in this room. Okay. Well, no, it's you. Yeah, so we are the only thing left, in a way. And we are now also living in a time in which children know more brands and logos than birds or tree species. Not to judge immediately, but this is the situation we are in. And with our science and technology, we manipulate the biological world onto the lowest level, that we can make a butterfly which is like branded Nike butterfly. Yet at the same time, our technological environment also becomes so complex and uncontrollable that we start to relate to it as a nature of its own. So, what will we leave for the future? That's the main question. And what will our own future be? Well, don't worry, this is a Photoshop. There's not a lady walking around with this, I think, ultimate female agony. But as a metaphor, this is really an image of our time, I think. Because we are now living in a time in which the born and the made are fusing or blending. And everything born we used to call nature. Plants, animals, the climate, the universe, that's all natural, it's born. While at the same time, everything we made, that's culture. But this is now blending, or actually I think it's shifting. And allow me to elaborate on this with a very simple graph that we can all understand. If we put on one axis born versus made. And on another axis, we put autonomous versus controlled. Then I've now created 4 quadrants, and I can put all kinds of things in there. So in the born controlled quadrant, I can place phenomena like a rainbow rose, a bonsai tree, a genetically modified banana or chicken. These are born natural entities that we control up to the lowest level, up to the moment that we say, no, this is design. It's not nature anymore, it's design. That banana that you buy in the supermarket, we think it's a piece of nature, but it's not. It's a piece of design. A wild banana has lots of seeds, and it's not handy to eat. And the bananas that we have in the supermarket, they need to be cloned. They cannot even replicate themselves. We clone these bananas, and it's really a monoculture also. It's design. Luckily, there's also still a lot of born nature left, which is beyond our control. Think of volcanoes, viruses, lightning, or the sun. That's just so much bigger than us. The sun is so much bigger. We don't have any control over the sun. So we can also be modest about that. Then on the made controlled side, cars, telephones, a light bulb, a robo-dog, not too exciting. But I think here in this upper quadrant, things become interesting. Here you would place things like traffic jams, cities, digital networks, computer viruses, or the financial system. You know, the financial system, we made it, but who's controlling this nowadays? You know, it's like living its own life. And my argument is basically that we used to think of nature as everything that's born, but that might be shifting to a new notion of nature as everything that's just growing autonomously. It might work, although in this quadrant something really weird happens, because then we have a nature caused by people. This we call the next nature. And yeah, here we need to make a mind shift, because typically we think of nature and technology as opposites, like black and white. But here we learn that our technologies are also growing beyond our control and becoming this next nature. So could we conclude that technology also becomes the next nature? Well, perhaps. I have some examples from our own life that I want to share. And the first one is the mobile phone. I think everyone in the room here is still old enough to have lived without a mobile phone. And there has been this moment that you thought, okay, everyone has a phone now, I buy one, right? Do you remember that moment when you bought your first phone? For me, it was like 1999. Most people had one. I thought, okay, I also buy one. It might be handy. But today, when I leave my house without my phone, I feel naked. I feel like I'm missing a limb, and I quickly run back to my home to grab the phone again and to be like a whole person again. And no, it's not part of my body, it's not inside my body, but it is part of my lifestyle, my identity. So it is a technology that's almost becoming part of my human nature. Well, not yet. We're not there yet. But if we look into history, I have some other examples. The first one is about a century ago. Imagine I would have given this lecture like 100 years ago. I could have spoken about maybe electric light. A century ago, electric light was a new technology that had to be explained to people in the hotel rooms where it was introduced. And you had these little plates. This room is equipped with Edison electric light. Do not attempt to light with a match. Simply use the handy key on the wall by the door. And also the disclaimer is quite interesting. The use of electricity for lighting is in no way harmful to health, nor does it affect the soundness of sleep. That's not something we worry about. But a century ago, this was a new technology, and people were like, electric light, I don't trust this. I need to get used to this. And you see this all throughout history. Both the mobile phone and electric light, they're still technology to us. They're not part of our human nature. But if I would go further back in time, like 10,000 years, I could have talked about agriculture. Nowadays, when we see these ladies planting crops, wait for them to grow, and then harvest them, we think, wow, they do it by hand, it's biological, it's organic farming. But 10,000 years ago, this was a technological revolution that radically changed our relationship with the natural world. And I have one more example, which is even older, because here you already think like, could we live still without agriculture? You know, I can maybe live without a mobile phone. Some people are doing it. But could humanity live without agriculture, which was once a technology and now it's part of our human nature that we do this? And a more ancient example even is, and then we go back about 200,000 years ago, it's not the barbecue, it's cooking. Today, if we, in the summertime, put meat on the barbecue, we say like, that's primitive, it's going back to nature. But there has been this moment in human history where cooking was an invention. It was a technology. Basically, some genius ancestor came up with the idea to pre-digest the food before we would eat it, which allowed us to intake more calories in less time, grow bigger brains, and become modern human beings. So if you look at this whole development over time, from the first stone axe to the domestication of fire to agriculture I mentioned, to the wheel, to invention of writing, the invention of money, the Industrial Revolution, unto today's bio, info and nanotechnologies that we are coping with now. If you put that all in perspective, then you realize that we humans, we are by nature technological. From the very first day that we are human, we also are already technological. And if you look at this from a distance, then you also notice that basically we're doing the same thing all over again, which is playing with fire. Every new technology allows us to do new things, but there are also risks all the time. And nature will never let us relax. So we will never solve things entirely. Rather, nature just changes along with us. So when we put this new view of the relationship nature and technology, when we have processed that, and I sense that some people are still like, how should I look now? It's a slightly different look. It's a bit of a mind shift. Then the world also looks a bit different. And I want to share a few examples from my own life where I think, what's happening here? This is the first one. These are all the razors that I used throughout my life. So I started with this when I was 17. Simple stick with 2 blades. And this morning I shaved myself with this battery-powered, LED-enabled, 6-bladed monster that looks a bit like a vacuum cleaner. And if you see the development, then I can't help but wonder, like, is this evolution? It seems to be evolving. Every new model builds upon the old model. You see functional shifts. You also see purely aesthetic shifts that remind a bit of the feathers of the peacock. And often people tell me, no, this is not evolution because we made it. Okay. But then maybe this is a symbol of the idea that we are now co-evolving with our technologies. Just like the bees and the flowers co-evolved. The bees take the nectar from the flowers, but they also spread their pollen and help the flowers propagate. Are we now co-evolving with our technology? And where will this bring us? I read in the newspaper that biodiversity is decreasing, and then I walk into a supermarket and I see an enormous increasement of, well, biodiversity is perhaps not the best term, maybe technodiversity is a better term. There are now more patents known on the planet then there are known species. This is the world we live in. This is what's happening. The financial system I already mentioned. Is it time that bankers and financial people start to perceive our financial system as an ecology in its own right? And what then could they still learn from farmers and gardeners who have extensive experience of coping with semi-autonomous ecologies, like weather and climate? You cannot control everything, you deal with it. How will we guide its growth, and what kind of inspiration can we get from the past? This, I think, it's very inspiring. It's not something nature did, it's something that our ancestors did, or people in another part of the world do. These are the root bridges in India. And they are created by simply connecting two roots of a tree and two opposite sides of the river. And then over time, you grow a bridge. Is this a new methodology? Could we grow our cities in this way? Of course, not from roots, but more as a method. The guided growth method. And how do we guide the growth of this phenomenon? This is not a star nebula somewhere in the universe, much closer than you think. This is a map of the internet. Every device plotted as a dot and all the connections between the devices plotted as lines, and then you see this map of the internet, which is almost, it looks like a natural phenomenon. I think it's beautiful also, but it's not something that we deliberately designed. It kind of happened to us. And I think that's very interesting. However, it's also a symbol that, like the fish who don't know it's wet, we are swimming in a technological environment that also has a dynamics of its own that we often do not control. And I think towards the future, biomimicry could help us do a better job. And I already promised that I would end with an example that I haven't solved yet. There will be other examples of biomimicry later in the evening, but there's one where I think, wow, could we do it? It's the question, can biomimicry help us to cope with the current refugee crisis? And I'm searching for answers, so I like to start the discussion on this, and I haven't nailed it yet, I have to say. But there are many directions that you could look into. For instance, there are some people who say we have to close all borders. We have to close everything off. But then when you look at a cell, you learn that closing off, it's not entirely what you should do. A cell is also, it's a closed body, it has a border, but it's also connected to other cells, to things around it, and it has to be connected because once it's entirely closed, it's dead. So closing off entirely, that will not happen. Another inspiration might be the slime mold. This is a very interesting species, and what you see them do here is they are solving a maze. They are also creating borders and food directions. There's food here and on the other side, and then this species kind of solves the maze. What could we learn from that? The third one is, well, a bit more uncanny, but some people might say, yeah, well, that's just how it is. If wolves, if they live in territories, and if there's a fire in the forest and they are forced to another territory, then they will also move. And they will enter another territory basically as refugees. But the way wolves solve this, that's just a fighting. And I think it's not too desirable to do it, but it is something that you see happening also in the biological world. What I think is more inspiring is maybe to look at the refugee issue as migration. Migration, you see it with birds, and birds are quite good at it. And they do it in a way that works. They move, in the winter to locations where there's more food, and they also know how to generate these swarms of birds, these flocks of birds that together sort of solve the issue. Again, I haven't nailed it, but I think if we are to look at biomimicry to solve the refugee crisis, then maybe migration brings some inspiration. You know, it's part of life, it's what we do, and we should cope with it. Then I like to end again with a repetition, because I already showed these 3 spheres, but I think what's important in this time is that we as human beings, that we realize that we have created this technosphere. We cannot go back to the natural paradise. It's there, and it's also bigger than us. It's complex, it's often uncontrollable, but hopefully we can guide its growth. And I also hope that we can learn a lot from the billions of years of experience that are in the biosphere to also develop a better technosphere. Because in the end, we humans, we made that technosphere. It's also our role and our job to connect it to the biosphere. And this is quite important, because in the end, it's not 3 spheres, but just all happening on one planet, which happens to be our planet. Thank you.
Thanks, Koert. That's quite loud. Thanks, Koert. In the very first instance, why did this topic of biomimicry grasp you? Because you call yourself a scientist, an engineer, a philosopher, all sorts of professional roles you can live up to. Why biomimicry for you?
Yeah, I think, I hope it's also clear from the talk that we can learn so much from these billions of years of experience that biology already had before we even arrived. You know, if you compare the history of our planet, which is 4.5 billion years, with the history of people, which is like, you could say, argue 200,000 years, something like that, then that's just like a small coating of paint on a big building. And we have to learn from what was already there and all the successful strategies in order to bring a better world towards the future. And I'm interested in a better future. Mm-hmm. And then, this might help us. Biomimicry might help us. It's also, it's a timely topic. We are talking about it now. But then again, I think already centuries ago, someone like Leonardo da Vinci was already also looking into biomimicry solutions in his projects. So it's not a new idea, but it's an idea that we can still develop further.
Mm-hmm. I can imagine people sitting here in the audience, as I have the feeling myself, whoa, it's so big, where to start? So even though some other speakers will zoom in on some topics, you have many topics yourself as well. There's the nano supermarket on wheels that you drive around the country. Yes. There's the cooking book, kookboek, kweekvlees. Maybe you can say something about that last one. You did it in combination with students, collaboration.
Yes, well, that's a totally different project, which I didn't show to you today because I had to make like a decision what to talk about. But indeed, I'm the author of the world's first in vitro meat cookbook. And it contains 45 recipes you cannot cook yet. It's highly speculative. And I did this project because the Dutch, we are good at cheese, wooden shoes, and in vitro meat. 2 years ago, Dutch scientists presented the first in vitro meat lab-grown hamburger to the world. And many people think this is weird and uncanny. But we have issues to solve around meat because many people know that global warming is an issue. Few people know that 15% of all the greenhouse gases is related to meat production. Of course, also the hurting of animals is an issue. And growing meat outside of the animal, which is basically the idea of in vitro meat, might be a solution. Of course, you can also just become a vegetarian, but not everyone is ready for that. And what I think is interesting is that the scientists who are working on it are mainly copying the existing meat products with this new technology. And so I took the role to envision all kinds of other dishes. And you can check it out at kweekvleeskookboek.nl if you like, because I did not bring the images just now.
But I just highlight this specific topic because I think you have the same. It's the same aspect with the electrical light that people weren't very willing to use it at the very start. Do you think people are adapting more and more quickly nowadays? You gave the example of the cell phone. Now you can't go without a cell phone. But is there a certain limit that we can take it all in?
Yeah, well, it's going so fast. You know, what do we think? I think every human being, not only in this room, has to cope with new technologies, but every human being in the world. So, and yeah, you can think for yourself, all these new gadgets that are thrown at me, how do you cope with it? And my advice would be to with every new technology, ask yourself the question, whether it's a mobile phone or social media or a new car, ask yourself the question, does this increase my human life or decrease it? Does it extend my senses or numb them? Does it empower me or will it outsource me? Is it connected to my intuition or not? And then the answer is often not black or white, but maybe 60-40, like 60% yes, 40% no. And then it's okay. But I think we really together as human species, we need to get more grip on what technologies we accept, because otherwise it will just parasite on us, basically.
Mm-hmm. And it's your opinion that people have to do that on their individual level first in order for societies to become more conscious eventually, because it's like a race, it gets to us and we just adopt it or not. But people have to be more aware on an individual base. That's what you think as well, isn't it?
Yes, I think it starts with individual choice. That's the choice that we all have, so that's what I emphasize.
Thanks. I'm curious, is there anyone who has a question or remark for Koert? Anyone? If not, then that's fine as well. Then may I please get a warm applause for Koert van Mensvoort. Thank you. Thanks. Yes, this one you can pass on to the next one. And I'm going to use this very highly digital thingy to cover up the screen because we have to swap from laptops, and in between I always forget many things. Some people of you, they love structure, so I'm going to tell you a bit more of the structure of this evening. It's 8:15 now. We've got another speaker for the upcoming 30 minutes until 8:45. Then we have a break until 9 o'clock. Then we have the third speaker until 9:30, and then afterwards we've got a block of 15 minutes for interaction. So please, people, start preparing your questions already. There are two very practical things as well. If you like this program, you can tweet about it on @paradigma040 on Twitter, Facebook page as well. And people of Open Webcasts are filming right now. That's why we use the sound and the installation as well. And people can watch this at the moment, live stream. And if you want to see different programs, earlier editions as well, you can see them on openwebcast.nl. And now we're going to swap this. So maybe in the meantime, take a minute to discuss with your neighbor what you think of this topic so far, because Koert sketched the outlines. Take a minute and then we're gonna swap. Go ahead. And what do you think about the topic? Who became any wiser of the last 30 minutes? Otherwise, I just come up to you. What do you think of the subject?
I think it's very interesting how you can use nature as an inspiration for new things and design.
Were there any way of thinking that you were familiar with already, or is it entirely new for you as well?
I heard about it with my study. I study what is the name, industrial product design. So I use it in my study already sometimes, and
All right. And that's a nice bridge to the next speaker because she studied something technical as well and she's applying it in her work. Shall we go have a look? All right, let's do that. I'm glad to pronounce to you Lydia Fraaie, and she's an architect. She studied here at the Technical University in Eindhoven, and she is all on biomimicry and bioart. She's been studying architecture, but now applying the very basics of nature, if I can say it like that, in her design. And that's not only here in the Netherlands, but as well in Africa. Please get your hands together for Lydia Fraaie.
Hi. Thanks for introducing me, and also thanks to the Library of Eindhoven for giving me the opportunity to talk about biomimicry and architecture, because I think it's a very, very important topic. I'm very glad I see a lot of familiar faces. Thanks for coming. My office is called Fraaie Architecten. My last name is Fraaie, so that's not so difficult. I am a member of Biomimicry NL since 2013, and Biomimicry NL is a foundation which promotes biomimicry in the Netherlands. Since I was a little girl, I wanted to be or a veterinarian or an architect, and eventually I became an architect. But I always kept a profound interest in biology. The first thing I want to do is explain what biomimicry means to me. It's a little bit different than what Kurt mentioned, but also has a lot of overlap. I'm going to explain what it means and why it's so important. In the next remaining 20 minutes, I'm going to talk about my own practice and how I practice biomimicry. I want to show you this movie. It's full of incredible imagery, which is fortunate when you work with nature. And I think this movie explains why biomimicry is the best new way of thinking, creating, or simply living. It's a movie, and the voices of Julia Roberts as Mother Nature. And if you haven't seen these movies, I suggest you see the other ones too. They're gorgeous.
Others call me Nature. I've been here for over 4.5 billion years. 22,500 times longer than you. I don't really need people, but people need me. Yes, your future depends on me. When I thrive, you thrive. When I falter, you falter. Or worse. But I've been here for eons. I have fed species greater than you, and I have starved species greater than you. My oceans, my soil, my flowing streams, my forests, they all can take you or leave you. How you choose to live each day, whether you regard or disregard me, doesn't really matter to me. One way or the other. Your actions will determine your fate, not mine. I am nature. I will go on. I am prepared to evolve. Are you?
So, are you prepared to evolve? The current thinking has its origins in the Industrial Revolution. We as a people think we are on top of the ecosystem, so that's the left. We are convinced that humans can take control of the earth and are responsible for the earth. But I think there's the biggest misconception there is in this society. I think we people are nature, so we are a part of nature and equally as important as a bee or a tree. And to survive, we need to evolve. I don't know if any one of you heard of biomimicry before we had this lecture. Can I see some hands who knew about the term? Oh, quite a lot. Wow, great. For the people who don't know it, I'm going to explain it a little bit. Bias, that's the Greek word for life, and mimicry is the Greek word for emulate, in Dutch nabootsen. Also what Kurt says and what Julia said, nature has evolved for billions of years. We are a very young species, and everything we have designed, nature has designed better. When nature designs something, it is without waste, without using too much energy, without spilling materials. Even better, when nature creates something, it's at room temperature and by self-assembly. So I want to show you two examples of biomimicry. Most of you probably know it already. This is a whale. The fin of a whale has some bumps. You can see the whale has a large body and really small fins. So the fins have to be very developed to give the most power to the whale. And researchers don't really know why those bumps are there, but it's really efficient for water resistance. So they tried, why not use it for a windmill? Actually, it works for the windmill also. We don't know really why, but it has a very high return and a low air resistance. So I don't know if there are any architects here. Can I show my hands? Okay. A few. Most of the architects, and if you are interested in biomimicry, you know this building. It's in Harare, Zimbabwe, and it's in the desert. So temperatures are from 6 to 40 degrees. And this building is inspired for climate control by termite hill. So if you can see, the hot air of the desert is coming through the ducts below the ground. That's the ground is cooler, so the air will be cooled when it comes in. And these are some chimneys, and termites open the chimneys to control the heat inside. So there are a lot of chimneys, and if you need it, you open a lot or you open a few. So, and if you can see, there are a lot of chimneys on this building too. So it's really low profile, low tech solution, because in Zimbabwe, if you want to replace the air conditioning, you have to go abroad for spare parts. So very good solution. Then I wanted to tell you something about my own practice. This is an ecosystem, and I think my office, I tried in my office to work as an ecosystem. In an ecosystem, every organism is dependent on each other or works together, and this is my view of my office as an ecosystem. So I have a lot of partners, and by working together I can stay small. And like an organism in nature, I can evolve and optimize. So working together with other people, I can focus on my talent and do the best things that I am good at, and also be efficient and deliver a higher quality. Sorry for my loss of words. The next project is a project in Togo, Africa, where Rudy already talked about. And it's together with Sander Benners, is an architect too, a friend of mine. And this is Stichting ELAI. Stichting ELAI wants to let children play in Togo, but also the less fortunate children in Holland. And we designed a community center for them. So I think you are a very intelligent audience. So does anybody know where Togo is? Except for Prosper, because he's Togolese. So no? Really not? Okay, it's in Africa, in the armpit of Africa. It's next to Ghana and Nigeria. It's kind of nice, no one reacted to my question, because Togo is kind of left aside. This picture is funny, but also a little bit heartbreaking, because Togo has no specific resources. It has sand, and that's already sold to China, so no one else has something to find there. So there are no multinationals. So that's an explanation of Togo is just very poor. This is Togo. This is the capital, Lomé. Our project is in the suburb, and that's Klobatem. And this is the area, if you zoom in. Here is, there are a lot of settlements, but this is the village where the king lives. This is the school we had met, and this is our location for our community center. So we went to visit Togo. We did a lot of research for our project on the internet, but it's kind of difficult. You don't find really a lot of information, and of course you don't know if it's true. So it was great that in 2013 we could visit Togo just to check everything we researched. So this is the lot. There's two lots. It's one lot is 20 meters by 30 meters. Two lots is 40 by 30 meters. So we checked the climate, because in our design we really design with the environment and also with the climate. So it's always 30 degrees. There's a lot of rain. Plants can grow easily. A lot of humidity, and there's always wind. Because it's a sea climate, there's always an average wind. And we try to find out what the wind direction is, the most common. And that's how we designed our building. As you can see here, we designed it on the wind. And when we were there, it really seemed correct also. So that was kind of a surprise to us, that everything we found out on the internet was correct. We started some local architecture. So this is a traditional hut from clay and reed. If you want to build a bank, you can do this. This is actually one of the 3 buildings that looks like this. The rest is more one layer. This is a modern way of building in Togo with concrete, really like in Western practice. It's also status if you can afford this. We went to visit the king. From the king we got the 2 lots. We went to the EU, and they were very interested in our sustainability, and also because we want to invest in the local economy, and we want to exchange knowledge. And that's what we did with the local contractor, this guy, and with a technical engineer. We discussed our design, and this is a sketch of our design. It's designed around the courtyard, and it has 2 classrooms, a podium, a conference room, which you can always also use for funerals. On top there is a sleeping area, and underneath there the kids can dress and wash. So Togo is nearby the equator, so sun is always very high, almost vertical. And one of the main questions or demands was that the building had a fence, because Togo is very poor. If you build something and you don't have a fence, people take it away, sell it, and they have food the next day. So we need to build a fence. But if you build a fence, it looks like a prison. So we tried to make it more friendly, and we integrated some functions in it. So the fence is also a podium, and it's also a canopy. So it works for the sun. People can sit on the tribune to watch the sports in the shade, I'm sorry. And the fence doesn't really look like a prison anymore. A lot of sustainable architects use honeycombs. Does anyone know why you usually use honeycombs? Anyone? You don't dare? No? Okay. Honeycombs are usually used. They use because it minimizes material. So you can build large amounts of surface with minimal material. But for Togo, we also used it in a different way. We found out, actually my stagiaire found out, that NASA uses it as a flow straightener for wind tunnels. So if you have a multi-wind directions in front and you pass it through the honeycomb, it straightens out and you have a nice straight wind direction. So we tried to use it in the facade. So we tried to use a honeycomb in the facade, and we researched it. This is how they build facades that are open in Togo. And as you can see, if the picture on the right, they made a water pump and the ground is made out of clay. So our idea is to locally make the molds, put the clay in, let them dry in the sun and build. We made 3 kind of molds, an open one, a closed one and a semi-open one. And that's why we want to make a pattern with it. And I think culture is nature. So in Africa there are a lot of prints, bold prints with a lot of colors. And we try to fit in our building into the culture, so we try to make the hexagon with the prints, the facade. This is a sketch, so the more private parts are closed and some parts are open. And this is actually the best part. Here comes the hexagon, the wind straightener comes in. We designed this building with a higher ceiling than normal. We would still want to have a Western appearance. We still want to have a Western appearance because it gives status. But we elevated the ceiling, so the ceiling is higher than normal in, for example, Holland. And we opened up the facade on top, so wind can come in. The hot air will rise and wants to go up even higher, and this is a wind tower. And when the air is here, this is completely open and the wind from the sea blows the air away. So we have a passive cooling system, but it's one big chimney actually. The next is, like Romans, they used an atrium, and atrium is water in the middle of a center, so which can cool down the spaces around. We have also water in the center. This is the children this is the place where children can wash their hands, and the warm air can lift with the evaporation up and cools down the surrounding spaces. This is how the progress now. They built a a storage room. The water well is in, so they can take it away. And it's also going to be used for storing the building materials. The next project is an eco-villa in Vught. And for this project, I actually want to tell you about regulations. So this is kind of a standard or normal sustainable house. I think you all know the principles like solar panels, heat pump, low temperature heating, the serre as heat recuperation, LED, heliophyte filter. But the thing is, I'm also designed the plan for this, the regulations, the plan for how to build. So that's the step before building, actually. And because I'm an architect and I haven't done that a lot, I got a pretty other view, of this. And I use a canopy to let in the sun in the summer in the winter, so it can heat the building, and not in the summer. This has to be 1.5 meter. And usually, if you want to build something, you get measurements in which you can build, and most people want to build the most volume they can. And as in the plans, you can have the canopy as an extra, so it can give you a little bit more space. But usually it's just 0.5 meter you can get. So I just suggested to the municipality, if we change the 0.5 meter that's on the north side and plus it on the south side, you still have the same square meters, but you then have free sun screen. So why not use that? And that's now for review by the municipality, so I hope they go along with it. Also, when you make a plan, you have to make a lot of reports, like sound or archaeology, or if the soil is contaminated, but also for flora and fauna. And usually they do the investigation to see if there's any endangered species. But I think you can use it positive and integrate the species that are there into your building, like with swallow roof tiles or bat houses or solitary bee hotels. And there are a lot of products that you can integrate in your house, and they don't have to have any consequences for your house. So you can still live there very comfortable. Last project I'm going to talk about is an interior I did for an abbey. It's for the Norbertines. The average age is above 70, so I thought it had a high elderly care factor. And I designed a meeting area for them. This is the old situation with a lot of chairs and a small table. And it's really dark and not very comfortable. And the abbot wanted to have a better atmosphere and wanted to strengthen the mutual relations between the Norbertines. So this is what it became. For this project, we'll use the psychology aspect of biomimicry, and that's biophilia. So there is a study from Edward E.O. Wilson and Stephen Kellert, and they did research what nature has for what influence nature has on your mental and physical health. So they proved that if people are in regular contact with nature, their health improved. And as a reminder of that, we want to bring nature back into the space. We have here a ceiling of a wall with plant motif. We were very lucky because the space is completely surrounded by the garden, and it's very private. And the only thing we really had to do to bring the better contact is to remove the curtains. And we also made the view on the volière a bit better. We also used nature inside. We replaced walls with planters. So this is a planter. And the other effect that plants have in your house, I think you all know, is that they purify the air. NASA did some research for their space stations, and of course, plants turn CO2 in O2. But these plants I've put in, they also purify the air from other toxins. So this is a peace lily, and it removes 5 different toxins. If you want to know which ones, it's pretty complicated chemical names, but if you want, I can tell them to you. And this is a Sansevieria, and that's also, if you want a plant for in your bedroom, that's the best one, because the CO2 and O2 process is reversed from this plant. And in my own office, I have a hydra, and also a lily plant, an aloe vera, which also, if you have wounds, you can it can cure them. And when I was working on the lecture at home, this picture, I realized that actually I was just working in the middle of the treetops and enjoying the fall. So for the last, together with Mireille, raise your hand, I'm writing a book about biomimicry, how to bring it into practice. It says here it's only for architects, but it's actually for designers in common. I think we will have it ready in 2016. So biomimicry is pretty complex material, and we encountered that a lot of people really want to use it, but not really get the grip on it. So we are writing a book to help you. So thanks for listening. Sorry for the slide shifting, but thanks for listening.
Lydia Fraaien. Please stay with us for another moment, because Koert already mentioned this one planet, and you've shown us 2 projects, one in Togo and the other one in Vught, and I think the contrast couldn't be even bigger. The question for you is, what can we learn here in Vught, what you have learned in Togo?
The best thing you can learn from Togo is that they're open for everything. It's also because they don't have a lot. Well, energy comes from Ghana, so a few times a day they lose energy, so also the air conditioning doesn't work, so they have to find other solutions. And I think we are a bit too spoiled to really have to think about those solutions. And I think we have a bit too much regulations here in Holland. So there are in Togo too, but they just try. I think we should try more.
Yeah, and that's what we can adopt from them as well, yeah. And there's this one thing, because in the preparations for this evening, I mentioned my verb, I'm willing to get in a dictionary, positiveren, but you've got a new word as well, isn't it? You call it humatica?
Oh, yeah.
Can you, very briefly, what is it about?
I also made wearables, and that's actually my idea of that. The human skin is also an architectural skin or a technical skin, and it has senses in it. So with Humatica, I want to cross the bridge between technology, skin, and architecture. So if you enter a building, the building recognizes you, you come in, and if you have cold feet, actually where you sit, the only place you have to have heat is where your feet are cold. So the rest of the building can have, you don't have anything to do with. So that's a sensory way of architecture. I think it's also very close to biomimicry, but more in a technical way, like Kurt said.
And is as well in line with the third speaker, which is being announced after the break, Jalila Essaidi. And before we do that, I would like to invite you for a drink, ask Bas for some nice cup of coffee or tea, and then I'll see you back in about 15 minutes. Thank you very much. Lydia Freya. All right, the cameras are rolling. Yes. So again, if you like this, you can tweet about it on Paradigma 040. If you like it, you can also visit the Facebook site or read articles on the bibliotheek site. We continue with the Natuur als inspiratiebron voor design, nature as an inspiration for design. And we have had 2 presentations so far. Kurt and Lydia gave us some insights on biomimicry and some examples how they can be used in architecture. And now, after this short break, we are going to present you the third speaker. Her name is Jalila Essaidi. She's a designer and a scientist. And she says, some people really want to get me picking one of these roles, but it all starts from one sort of source, and that's curiosity. I'm very curious for the presentation of Jalila because it's quite cutting edge. She became very famous with one of her projects that she's most definitely going to show. Please, can I get a warm applause for Jalila Essaidi?
Good luck. Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I also look at nature. I'm fascinated by nature. I'm a curious being. And I'm especially focused on spiders and spider silk because I love those beings. And the material they make is very impressive. It started all for me with a project, Bulletproof Human Skin. And bulletproof human skin is about the relativity of safety. On the one hand, you have our feeling of safety, and on the other hand, you have the reality. And in this age, the digital age, in which media and information comes rapidly to us, especially through social media, and violating and scary news comes straight under our skin, our human skin. And our skin is our barrier between our inner world and outer world. So, bulletproof human skin is made to think about the impact of biotechnology, because as society we get a lot of news about GMOs and about genetically modified goats and Monsanto. But is it all bad? Is it all hurtful for us as society? Bulletproof skin is based on spider silk, and this spider silk is a material which fascinates me. Nature went through million years of trial and error, and makes this fascinating and a material which we sure could use in our society. Spider silk is biocompatible with the human body. It's biodegradable in the human body. It's a better heat conductor than copper. And it's 10 times as strong as steel. But when we talk about strong as steel, when we talk about a stronger material, what are we talking about? Well, in the case of spider silk, especially synthetic spider silk, we are talking about a combination of material properties. Here you see a comparison between Kevlar. And Kevlar is a material which is used in bulletproof vests, and synthetic spider silk. And as you can see, if you measure the tensile strength is about how much pressure can you put on a thread before it breaks. And the extensibility, you see that Kevlar has a high tensile strength, so you can put a lot of pressure before it breaks. But spider silk has a combination. You can put a lot of pressure on it, but it has also the extensibility, so it's very flexible. The ideal combination which makes it stronger than steel. Here you see a bulletproof vest. A normal Type 1 bulletproof vest exists of 33 layers of Kevlar and a ceramic plate. And it's very heavy to wear. And it's not comfortable. So if you use spider silk, you can make very light and easy to wear bulletproof vests. When I read the article about this synthetic spider silk and the applications, I read about application as bulletproof vests. But I thought, as an artist, why even bother with a bulletproof vest? What if we take it one step further? What if we created bulletproof humans? Well, it wasn't allowed. It's ethically not allowed to make bulletproof humans. So I thought, well, then I make a bulletproof skin. And for me, it was very important that it was an actual bulletproof human skin. And to create a bulletproof human skin, I needed a lot of scientists with me to create it, to test it, because there is no one with this speciality. The first group that I cooperated with was the forensic genomics. They do research for forensic genomic, like in tracking DNA. The other scientists were the dermatologists from the LUMC. The other scientists were the people who created the genetically modified organism, which I worked with at Utah State University. And, of course, the Dutch Forensic Institute to test this skin. Together, we started working on this bulletproof human skin. And the first ingredient that I needed for bulletproof skin was human skin cells. And we took some leftover skin. It was leftover skin from plastic surgery, so people who were fat and did a diet and had some skin left over, they could remove it there. And from this human skin, we isolated some cells. The only thing I know of the skin I used is that she was 46 and her name was Sarah. Well, the first cells were fibroblasts. Fibroblasts are the skin cells in your dermis, and they look a bit like a spider's web. The second cells were the keratinocytes in your epidermis. And together with 2 layers of synthetic spider silk, they grew into a full-thickness skin model. And a full-thickness skin model is at the moment the skin type that comes the closest to our own human skin in science. Well, to take proof of concept, of course, we needed to test the skin, and we took different skin types to the forensic ballistic department. And we shot at it with .20 long rifle caliber bullets. And during this test, we made images with a high-speed camera, which I will show now. The first skin is a pig skin because it comes the closest to our own human skin. The second skin is an in vitro human skin. So in vitro means grown out of the body. And it are the fibroblasts with keratinocytes. This third skin is in vitro human skin enhanced with silk from the normal silk moth. And the actual bulletproof skin is 2 layers of spider silk in between the fibroblasts and the keratinocytes. And as you can see, a .20 long rifle bullet on half speed doesn't penetrate the skin. All the skin types were put on ballistic gel. Ballistic gel is used to test accidents by the ballistic department because the ballistic gel functions as muscle. Yeah, here you see her. I have a big glass greenhouse at Strijpthee in Eindhoven, and I breed this species. She's beautiful. She's as big as my hand. It's a tropical spider, and she builds gigantic, beautiful, three-dimensional golden webs. And it's a she because the males are very tiny. They are this tiny, and she is this big. And it's better for the males because if she catches them, then she eats them. But she has a problem. She's quite cannibalistic and territorial. And for commercial scale, she is not really a good thing to keep. But the spider silk she makes is very desired by us as a society because of all these beautiful properties. In the 18th century, we tried to harvest spider silk. In France, they made little machines like this, where they harvested spider silk by milking the spiders. As you can see, that's not enough for our whole society. But it shows how much we desire this material. This is a golden cape. It's now at the Victoria and Albert Museum. And to create this cape, one cape, 40 people worked 8 years long, collecting spiders, harvesting the spiders, so milking the spiders to get the thread, then twining this thread, then weaving this thread, and all to create one cape, a cape which cost millions. A cape of which the people who wore it described as the clothes of the emperor, the new clothes. They are as light and it's like if you are wearing nothing, a material which feels so good on your body. This shows how desired this material is. And then comes the question, if this material is so hard to obtain, how did you make bulletproof human skin? Well, that's another story. Another story which also starts with gunpowder, bulletproof vests, and spiders. A story that starts at DuPont. I think everyone knows DuPont as a chemical giant. And before DuPont started as a chemical giant, it was a gunpowder manufacturer. And they did crazy experiments. Experiments like shooting golf balls out of cannons, just for the sake of it. But while doing that, they discovered that by shooting golf balls through cannons, you can see how the plastics work. By doing that, they discovered Kevlar. And Kevlar is a material which is now used in bulletproof vests because of its toughness, because it's strong. But they didn't only discover Kevlar by doing those experiments, they also discovered nylon. And nylon was described at that time as light and smooth as silk, as spider silk. This also shows our desire for spider silk. But that's not the material I used. I wanted to work with the real material, so the real biomaterial. And it is in 2001 that we find the first patent of DuPont, in which E. coli bacteria were genetically modified to produce the spider silk protein. At that time, that was really special, but the protein wasn't that strong as the protein we find now in 2015. Now in 2015, we find silkworms that produce spider silk in their cocoon. We find genetically modified goats who produce spider silk protein in their milk, and which we can obtain by electrospinning these proteins. And it's not that strange. Biotechnology is quite fun. It's like playing with Lego. Everyone can play with Lego blocks. And here you see spider silk on molecular level. And what you see are the beta sheets. That are the rigid crystals. So that's for the toughness of the thread. And you see the beta spirals. The beta spirals are for the flexibility. And as you can see, you can play around with them. But that's nothing new. The spider already does this. The spider creates 6 different kinds of threads. For example, she produces dragline silk. That's the silk I work with. And a dragline silk is the thread of which the spider makes its skeleton. And that's really tough but elastic. She makes also other threads like this thread. That thread is to catch insects. It's very sticky and flexible, so the insect can't move away. And if you look at it closer, the MASP2 is the dragline silk, so the thread of which makes the skeleton. And as you can see, it has enough beta sheets and enough beta spirals to be a strong material. And the flagellia silk, the second one, has also the thickness and a lot of flexibility. So it's playing around like Lego. What it means that we are not talking about something as wool or wood or cotton. No, we are talking about fibers we can play around with the properties. We are not talking about tailor-made textiles. No, we are talking about tailor-made fibers. Fibers which we can adjust as we wish for applications we desire. So you can make it more flexible by adding more beta spirals, or make it really tough by adding more beta sheets. And the beauty of that is that we can look at nature, we can play with nature, and we can make applications with nature. And besides the effect of the technical story, working with nature brings also other questions, ethical questions, because normally it's only for the biotechnologists to work in a lab, but when an artist enters, you get new questions, also questions from society. Questions as, am I allowed as an artist to work with genetically modified organisms? Am I? Am I allowed to work with human skin? A human body is for science, or to be buried, or to be burned. Why should an artist play with it? And I created bulletproof human skin. I can patent it. And if I do patent it, can I sell it to the highest bidder? Even if the highest bidder decides to make the skin only available in white, only for the rich people. Can I? Ethical questions, but also new innovative applications. By creating this bulletproof human skin, we worked with new biomaterials. When we did grow these pieces of skin, we discovered that they stayed longer alive than normally. And we still don't know how that happened, but by combining disciplines and combining materials, new materials from nature, you discover new things. So that's still on research. Why did the stem cells live longer in this bulletproof human skin? Another thing, because I liked the ballistic gel blocks, the ones that mimicked the human muscle, I wanted to keep that. And a normal ballistic block on which they do tests is made out of gelatin. And gelatin is just bone meal from pigs and cows. And what that means is that it degrades very quick. And it's a material which you can keep for a week, and then it starts to smell and it destroys itself. And that's the problem they were also facing at the Dutch Forensic Institute, because they also wanted to keep their ballistic blocks longer, to keep it for their research. But that wasn't possible. And I found it very important to show these ballistic blocks to the people in my exhibitions. So I brought in another natural material, went in a cooperation with another scientist, and we created a ballistic block that is now still intact 3 years later. So that's also a new innovation which was of importance by working together with other disciplines and looking at nature and what you can learn from nature and what you can use out of it. When a Bulletproof Skin was created, I was asked to come to Eindhoven and share how I work and open it for other young people, because I went through the whole process and I started BioArt Laboratories in Eindhoven. And what we do there, it's a hybrid laboratory, several hundred meters square. And we have a big wet lab combined with an atelier where prototypes like 3D printers, which they use to print bacteria and other devices, are combined with biology, with physics, and with chemistry. And it's a hybrid lab, a physical lab, to help other young people to look at nature, to work with nature, and to play around with it. And one of the things we do is work with light-giving bacteria. You can really easily harvest them from deep sea fish, octopus, sardine. And with these light-giving bacteria, other young people, the new makers of the future, play around and create new applications. Another thing which we did is make use of trees and how trees in nature communicate. This was a project which started a year ago. It's called Tree Antenna. And Tree Antenna is making use of the tree to communicate analog. So you can send voice or Morse code. And last year we added the digital voice to the tree. So you can also send pictures and text. And it functions with a very simple coil on the substreams of the tree. And it replaces a 20-meter whip antenna. So you don't need a metal thing in your garden. You can make use of nature. Tree antenna was really fun to do. We did it with some big tree in front of the NatLab. And when we were sending and receiving through the trees, so we were communicating through trees, all the neighbors around us who heard us on the radio came to check if we really were talking through trees. At that time, the project was about communicating through trees. And this year we are going to go on with this project, only we are going to look at it the other way around. So we are using the coil as a non-invasive way of collecting data from the trees. And what this means is that you can create a tree antenna without hurting the tree in the Amazon and look at the weather there, look at the effect of CO2. And another effect is also, which we are going to do with the Victoria and Albert Museum, is letting people use their natural environment. People in Syria and Turkey who have a restriction on communication can, with an easy tool, with a copper wire and a transistor radio, can send and receive messages. So these are a few of the things which we are working now on, and nature is a big part of it. And not only artists as me, or biotechnologists, or scientists, but for everyone, nature is very important. This is how the tree receives and sends. But I want to bring on a quote of Eric Kendall. And this quote is about the interdisciplinarity, the hybrid way of working, and working for me with nature. And I think it really shows how this age works and why it's very important to work with biomimicry, to work with different disciplines. And what it says is, a brain scan may reveal the neural signs of a depression, but the Beethoven symphony reveals what that depression feels like. And it's about that everyone looks from his own perspective. The scientist looks from his perspective, and the artist looks from its perspective, and society does. And it's important to bring them together, because if we get a grasp of the total, we get a grasp of our place in time and our place in nature. Thank you.
Jalila, dankjewel. I just play along on stage with the mics so the people back home can hear us as well through the channel. Like we started off with your curiosity as both being actually a designer and being a scientist.
I'm not a scientist.
But you live up to it. Like you dive into the material and you just want to know every single aspect of it, isn't it?
Yes, but I think that's something of this generation. We are, I call it in Dutch, een opzoekgeneratie. We dive in material because we find it interesting. And there is so much you still can learn, and we still don't know anything of the world.
And now you said you're extremely busy during this Dutch Design Week, and there are parties all over, and you're just sharing.
I'm not going to the parties.
No parties?
No parties.
No parties. But maybe next week. And that was actually the question I was willing to ask you. You are sitting at parties telling what you do, and
No, I don't sit at parties telling what I do.
Never.
Never.
What are the reactions you get to your work? They must be very widespread as well. People who think it's delightful, and other people who think this is just pure horror, isn't it?
The horror I don't hear much, but in the beginning I was quite young because I just came from art school, and then I had the idea to make a bulletproof human skin, and then time started rolling. But in the beginning I got emails from soldiers all over the world, or who were sitting in Afghanistan asking, can I get a piece of that skin to be safe, or people who came from Africa and had problem with rapes. It were girls, and they thought about an application against rape, or mothers sending me emails if they could make their kids bump free, and
so
crazy,
people became
crazy.
very creative
Yes.
by the initial plans you got, and then they were sending you the IDs by
Yes.
mail. Yeah,
Yeah.
all right. Yeah, well, we have another 10 minutes left for the other speakers as well, so I want to invite them. Koert and Lydia, please join us. And maybe we can click once more, then we see all of the names. As I said before, of course, there are questions for you to be asked, but maybe these speakers have a question for them, each other as well. We started off with Koert, who gave the outline of biomimicry. Then we heard an architect, Lydia, to tell us something about your projects, how you are implementing it, and then we talked about the bulletproof silk skin, which is quite, well, for me it's fascinating. What do you think, Koert, if you look at these examples, you must have seen them before already?
Yeah, well, not all of them, and especially I was surprised and delighted to see the tree antenna. Okay. Because I did not know that project, and well, I showed my own presentation with this metal antenna disguised as a tree, which is not something I promote or endorse. It's just kind of crazy that people are doing that. And yeah, it's lovely to see that there are other strategies as well, where you actually use a growing tree and then turn that into an antenna. And I just want to say I found that very cool and interesting, and it also shows that, yeah, although it's uncanny, because I also wonder if people in the audience think with a lot what we see, yeah, is it uncanny, or do you think this will bring a better future? And I'm actually becoming more confident increasingly that it will bring us a better future to cross the line in biology and technology, and basically use technology to transform nature into something next. We just have to decide which way we want to go, and then we have all these options and opportunities. It's quite awesome. I'm really happy.
Koert, staying for the whole week here in Eindhoven, based in Amsterdam, but you're here for the Dutch Design Week.
Absolutely.
And it's happening right here because she's designing these antenna trees here in the city and working with it. Is there anyone from the audience who has a question or a state mark or a remark for one of the speakers? Please raise your hand if that's the case. There's one. I just come up to you and you just play along with the mic, and it's not for the people here, for the people back home. What's your name and what's your question?
My name is Kas. I got a question for Jalila. Because I'm a communication and multimedia design student, and you were talking about trees transmitting or intercommunicating between trees. Isn't it possible to make a tree a Wi-Fi transmitter, so a tree becomes an internet transmitter for people around it? So it's just not just for a tree.
In fact, we did. We made from an analog signal a digital signal, and You can send text, you can send images through trees, but the problem is in the winter and in the autumn it doesn't work because the sap streams are slower. So you can work with it in summer and spring.
Gives us some off time every now and then. That would be nice.
We need a winter sleep.
We need a winter sleep. I agree on that one. What's your name?
My name's Nicole, and actually I'm from Utah. So I just wanted to know how you approached them, because I find that it's sometimes complicated to get industry or academia where I'm from to get involved in projects that are orchestrated by a designer or an artist.
Yeah.
How did you do it?
Yeah, I think it's important for artists and designers, but I think for people in general, if you are wanting to cooperate or to work with someone else, learn what the other person is doing, learn about his research, dive into the matter, look at, I have an idea, but what could it bring the other, and then start a conversation, and then you can send an email and you get bad replies, but sometimes you get a good reply.
Good, is agreeing on that one. There was another question or remark, someone. There's one. What is your name?
Math. I was wondering, in terms of changing trees into sort of communication devices in like Syria and stuff, with governments that are quite so brutal, isn't there a concern that they would sort of just start destroying all the stuff, like all the trees and stuff that you were trying to use?
So I try to repeat it and wrap it up. So there's a different way of viewing by politicians. Is that what you say? Here in the Netherlands or in general? Oh, in Syria. Oh, that's the question. So if you come up with these trees and they would work as communication hubs, then the rebels would just take them down, or the government who is not agreeing with it?
Yeah, but we have everywhere trees in the world. But the thing is, with trees, there is no regulation yet, because a few weeks ago we had a discussion about could we transfer bitcoins to trees, and what does that mean for us as society? Is it a new way of doing all these crazy things?
Well, my mind is blowing. There's so many new aspects. Any more questions or remarks? Who was triggered by something? Arnoud.
I will do it in Dutch because my English is not so good. Ik heb een uitnodiging naar de organisatie van deze avond. Ik kijk altijd naar de positieve kant, zeg maar, van hoe ontwikkelingen gaan. Oh, sorry. Ik kijk altijd naar de positieve kant van hoe ontwikkelingen gaan. Dus ik ben heel blij om te zien dat jij zegt, oh, ik word hier zo blij van, want ik zie allemaal mogelijkheden. Ik heb laatst een documentaire gezien over waar wifi heen gaat, zeg maar. Dus de lange termijn effecten bijvoorbeeld van wifi. En voor de organisatie zou ik zeggen, het is zo mooi om de tegenhanger te zien, zeg maar, van mensen die de positieve kant zien, die natuur en technologie samen maken, zeg maar, om allerlei nieuwe mogelijkheden te zien. En een aantal, laten we zeggen, een kant waar ik niet geneigd ben naar te kijken, maar een soort doemscenario van, hey, waar gaat het heen als we niet naar de lange termijn effecten kijken, bijvoorbeeld van wifi. Er werd hier net de vraag gesteld naast mij. Ik heb een hoop wetenschappers gehoord over, weet je wel, waar die kant op kan gaan. Dus mijn uitnodiging naar de organisatie is laat allebei de stemmen horen. Volgend jaar.
Perfect. I'll just try to wrap it up in English. So this is a very positive way of looking at it, at the matter and where we're going in technology in the future. But there's a dark side as well. But maybe you know something about this dark side.
Yeah,
Kurt.
I'm like listening to you, and I think it's a good point you make. Because although I just said, like, I'm optimistic, I think we can do it. And I'm becoming more optimistic every day. There's a lot we still have to solve. There are lots of problems. But I always end the day with a smile because I feel we are getting better. However, we are also at a crossroad, I think, now. I try to share how I sense we are co-evolving with technology, like the bees and the flowers. And the horror scenario, which some people are more like clinging on to, like, oh, this is going to happen. The horror scenario would be that all these new technologies, they parasite on humanity, and basically we become a resource of the technology. We become the pets of those much smarter robots that will evolve. Well, you've seen the Hollywood movies, right? And that's quite easy to sketch. I think it's good to have that discussion as well in relation to what's happening to technology, and we just have to push it all together in the positive scenario, in the dream scenario, where technology can lift us, and we can actually create technologies that resonate with biology in a way that it's a new world. No, it's not going back to nature, but rather it's going forward to nature. And it's learning from nature, and it's incorporating the ancient history of the biosphere, which we also already mentioned a few times, into the future. And then I think we are becoming stewards of evolution in a way that's actually desirable. But again, we are at a crossroad, and I always sense that humanity, we are in our teenage period. You know, we are teenagers as a species. We just arrived. And if we can mature and do a better job, and also some of the things you showed with biomimicry, learning from the past, bringing it into a whole new future, then I think we can end up in a world which is improving life for everyone.
For me, it's also important that we try to shed our ego so that we can control nature. So we really have to have more respect for nature, and we can learn from nature because it already invented everything. So.
And we are being a part of it as ourselves as well.
We
We are
are
not standing
nature.
outside of nature, but we are nature
To
ourselves.
conserve ourselves, we have to follow nature or work like an ecosystem.
Yeah, to keep up with it. I think that's a very nice one to conclude the evening with on biomimicry. We've heard so many new things, and as I said before, my mind is blowing with new information and whole new reality and view on life. 3 nice speakers. If you like to catch up with them, you are able to with a drink. You can order at the bar. And we're here until 10:30 because then we have to leave the building due to security. Can I get a warm applause for these 3 speakers? Thank you, Koert, Lydia and Jalila.